Heart of ember, autumn tide, cooling swiftly, bleeding light, smoldering softly, biding time, marching forward, left behind. Forgotten footfalls engraved in ash. Fire will be repaid, for our echoes begin to fade.
Before we dive into the fight, I want to say Endwalker spoiler alert. I will also not cover every mechanic in deep detail. We have very talented guide makers in our community, so I leave a guide that we used in the description down below. Now let's start, shall we? The Lady of the Vortex, Garuda. The first phase of the fight, and the fight you will see the most. Now differences between Savage and Ultimates are starting to show right off the bat. Where in Savage you have some breathing air between major mechanics, Ultimates will give you a constant barrage of abilities, so you need to be focused all the time. The focus part gets hard the more the fight progresses, but I will get into that part later. In the first phase, we were mostly busy adjusting to the pace of the fight. All mechanics are fine except for one. That is the sound of a feather rain. Never ever forget a feather rain, you will regret it in the end. Now let's talk about the most important gimmick of this whole ultimate fight. Awakening all the primals. As for Garuda, this means an in and out dance in the shield that drops at the beginning of the phase. If done right, she will get the awoken buff, changing some of her abilities and allows us to pick up an orb after defeating her. This orb will play a big part in phase 4. It can look intimidating with everything that is going on, and I can only take a guess how things were back in the days when going in blind. Luckily for us, there are guides that show you exactly what you need to do, and with those kind of tools at your disposal, it makes everything very understandable. However, there is a confession to be made here. We started doing this ultimate after we cleared Asphodelos, the first raid tier of Pandemonium. We all started raiding back then, so things were kinda sloppy, to say the least. The DPS checks were kinda tight, and well, mitigation? What's mitigation? Abyssos, the second raid tier on the other hand, was very challenging for our group, and once we came back, things were getting easier because we were better. So this phase wasn't that much of a challenge anymore, although it seems we are forgetting something here. Oh yeah, of course, the transition.
Hello, motherfucker.
No time for a breather here. Once Garuda goes up, Ifrit comes down. You have a few seconds to find a safe spot in the arena, before he sets everything ablaze and dashes through the middle, killing everyone who wasn't fast enough. A pretty straightforward mechanic. Get it? Straightforward? Because the dash? Yeah, that's a pretty bad one. Nevertheless, once that is resolved, the fight against Ifrit can finally begin. He starts off with some basic abilities, before dropping down the most important one of this phase. These bad boys over here, the nails. 4 nails drop into the arena and need to be killed. But, not immediately. 2 players get eruption. They need to dance around the arena and need to make sure that every nail gets hit by an eruption twice. The nails need to be killed one by one, because once killed they explode and give out a raid-wide AoE. But of course you can also check if the healers are still awake. Then there is a certain kill order to kill them by. This is very important because further down the line there is a dash mechanic and it determines the order on where Ifrit is going to stand on the edge of the arena. If you've done it correctly, then Ifrit will turn blue and he is awoken. As for the next major mechanic, the dashes, I have another confession to make. We didn't do that mechanic at all. We downed Ifrit even before he reached that point. Even though this is still an ultimate, things like this show to me that things are now easier than it was back in the days. And don't get me wrong on the whole easier thing. It's still an ultimate fight with ultimate mechanics. We don't have tea parties over here. Once Ifrit is down, you have a few seconds to grab the orb and get to the edge of the arena because Titan is about to jump in. Time to rock. They not make it very easy for you, trying to fight this boss while playing such an awesome song. I love this rendition of the Primals. The music in this game is truly something else. However, shortly after that, the stone cold reality sets in. We have reached our first major wall in this gauntlet, and we had to move mountains to progress further. You get it? Because we are fighting Titan, Lord of the Cracks. Yeah, that one is even worse than before. I'll stop. Bad jokes aside, this truly was our first wall. You see, there's this one mechanic called Titan Chills. This mechanic can only be resolved in one way, and it has to be perfectly as well. Titan drops down at the edge of the arena, and you need to run towards him as fast as possible. You need to shimmy yourself into the safe spot, and 3 random players will get a circle around them. These players need to run towards their marker and make a perfect line from the bomb boulder that is going off all the way towards Titan. When done correctly, a chain of explosions will go off, freeing the persons that were inside and slowly moving Titan towards his awoken status. And I think this mechanic cost us the most wipes. For you see, the movement was so tight and some of us didn't have the best internet that we had a lot of latency wipes, so to say. Yes? Yeah, we knew about the melons. No, we decided not to use them. Apart from using a guide, we wanted to clear this fight as it was meant to be. Once we got through the jail, the rest of the phase was rather easy actually. Apart from the untelegraphed landslide memes, there was one big mechanic left. The so-called Mario Kart mechanic. It looked very chaotic, but it all boiled down to run around the edge of the arena and dodge all the bad stuff. And after this mechanic, we reached the point that Titan dropped his orb and jumped into the air. Do you got all the 3 orbs from the Primals? Good job. Then it's time to break your limits. The transition phase starts off with a caster LB3 to get rid of the ads around the room. If everything is done correctly, the orb you had acquired replenishes your limit break bars. Then the whole party gets afflicted with a doom debuff. That is the cue for the healer to shine. The limit break bars fill up once again. La Habrea shows himself, wanting to end your ultimate run. When everyone attacks him, it's time for the melee DPS to shine. The limit break bars fill up once again as Ultima finally shows itself. Casting Ultima, wanting to wipe out the party. Now if you're lucky and the tanks won't forget, it's time for their limit break to shine here. And so the final phase of this gauntlet can finally start. Ultima, the hardest phase of them all, and showing us what a true ultimate is all about. Well, you see, an ultimate is not about the complexity of a mechanic, it is about how much you can endure. It is running a marathon, not a sprint. At this point I already lost count of how many times we had wiped, and since we were using guides, we already had the answers of how to solve a mechanic. The real challenge is in getting to the proc point once more consistently. Ultima has 3 major mechanics that need to be solved, followed up by a Primal Roulette, the final mechanic, which is basically a victory lap. Apart from the difficulty, this phase is awesome. It will throw everything at you that you have done before, also throwing everything at once at you. From the Awoken Wicked Wheel from Garuda, the dashes from Ifrit, or the landslides from Titan, everything came back once more. And to be fair, upon reaching it for the first time, it can look very intimidating, but you will get used to it pretty quickly. Slowly we were progressing through every mechanic, slow and steady. Thing is, if you wipe beforehand, like for instance a Titan Chill, it can be very frustrating. Or even dying at Ultima itself with a minor mistake, it adds up to the frustration. Nevertheless, we forged ahead, and after many trials and errors we finally reached Primal Roulette. Garuda was the final Primal to come down. She began casting her Awoken Wicked Wheel and we successfully dodged it. Now all that was left was mitigating the next raid wipe, and we will finally see the end raids and even clear this ultimate. Haven't I told you at the start that if you forget a feather rain, you will regret everything in the end? We died at the finish line. This is just too much. The frustrations are so high, maybe it's just better to just quit.
Tell me this, and tell me true. Has your journey been good? Has it been worthwhile?
Oh, we had a lot of fun, but since the progression stagnated, we became more and more frustrated, sucking away all the fun.
In darkness, seek joy. Surrender not to sadness, and see beyond despair. Walk free, and bear the light for others to follow.
Walk free? Are you making a Titan jail joke now? This is not funny. So many unnecessary wipes over and over again. I doubt that we will get a perfect run in one go. Ever.
No one, however powerful, is immune to the whisperings of doubt and despair. Do not give in to them, but do not deny them either. Look instead to the light within, that you may continue to serve as a beacon to others.
Very well. One last pull.
Let us be about it, hero.
Heart of ember, autumn tide, burning brightly, hot and white. Kindred severed, never were. Sorrow silence, we need and bear. Every step we take echoes in our wake, winding round our feet, forge ahead. Should we lose our way, tire of all this pain, we won't be afraid to forge ahead. Hear this heart so please, no more time to waste. It's not too late to forge ahead. Have to rise again to another end, where it all begins. Forge ahead.
And so ends our story of the Weapons Refrain Ultimate. It was a long road with a lot of bumps in the way, but a very enjoyable one nevertheless. Because that's the most important part, having fun. The people you raid with can really make or break your raid experience. I'm throwing in the old cliche, it's all about the journey and not the destination. And for the 1 million guild question if a casual can clear an ultimate, to that question I will say, without a doubt in my mind, yes. Yes they can. The only thing you really need to do is open up your mind and have the willingness to learn. Everyone in our static started with raiding in Endwalker. So yes, we didn't have any experience when we started this journey. And I know it can be very daunting to see world first raiders, but those are a very different breed of people. Just focus on your own progression as a player. That's the most important thing. There are more players than you think that want to clear an ultimate but haven't tried it yet, so why not search each other up and start a group together, lifting each other up. You never know if you never try, and if you're really starting to doubt yourself, just remember, if a potato with a top hat and a monocle can become an ultimate legend, so can you.